Welcome to the Rees Legal Rees's Pieces bite-sized hints and tips on revision technique. Hi, and thanks for coming back. I'm Simon from Rees Legal. It's great that you came back to check the revision technique session out. Thank you for that. In this session, we will look at some techniques you can employ to get the most out of your revision. Again, we'll draw from personal experience, good educational practice, and basic educational psychology to make some suggestions. As before, remember, not everything will work for everyone. Sometimes you need to adapt things to suit your circumstances, but I'll try to keep things as general as possible. Right, as before, grab yourself a cup of something warm. Let's get started. Right, I suppose the first thing to say about revision is don't leave it until it's too late. Well, how late is too late, I hear many of you ask. Well, that was a bit of a trap. If you are asking that question, I would say that you're probably looking at the question through the wrong end of the telescope. Leaving revision too late means that you're cramming the night before the exam. That creates panic, the whole I'll never learn it in time situation, which leads to your mind being unreceptive to the acquisition of knowledge because it's too busy with the problem of learning to get anything from the process of learning. And this ultimately results in you having less ability to recall information than if you'd started earlier and weren't panicking. So instead of asking how late you can leave it, why not turn that on its head? Why not ask how early can I start instead? That gets you into a much more positive mindset. In answer to that question, there is no such thing as too early. In fact, almost all of your study counts as revision to some extent. So revision, or revision, is a joining together of the words repeat and vision. So technically, revision occurs every time you experience information from the second time onwards. From an educational psychology point of view, to get the greatest chance of recalling the information needed in the exam, your revision should start the day after your first lesson. Well, what do I mean by this? Well, to get the best recall, you should experience the information for the first time by reading the manual or attending a class. That is your vision, let's call it. The first time seeing or experiencing the information. Anything after that is repeat vision or revision. Best practice says try to touch the information again a day later, then again a week later, and then a further time 1 month later. If you can stick to that basic schedule, then educational psychology dictates that you have the best chance of remembering it. This is because your synapses, the parts of your brain that like learning things, fire up and grab the revision, storing it with the information it already had on the subject, increasing the accuracy and breadth of your recall on the topic. Now, you might say, well, I'm too busy to do all that. We understand that. You're not alone. Most people feel that way. But for those that can do this, imagine the advantage you're giving yourself over all the people that can't or won't make time to study like that. As I mentioned in the general study session before, you owe it to your future self to put in the effort now to reap the rewards and the benefits later. I never said it would be easy, I just said it would be worth it. Okay, so aside from starting your revision the day after the first lesson, when should the process of what most people would understand as revision start? Well, like your study generally, that depends on what you have to revise. The longer the manual, the more information, the longer you should give yourself to revise things. Other factors to consider are how much free time for revision you can create, and only you know that by looking at your schedule. So I'm not going to focus my advice around your schedule because I don't know what it is. It's impossible to create a plan that would be suitable for everyone listening to this. But as a rule, try and start your revision a minimum of 1 month before your exams start, longer if you can. Schedule your session and keep to the timetable. Remember, you can't concentrate if you're tired, hungry, or distracted. So make sure you agree with those around you not to be interrupted. Take regular breaks or at least swap revision topics regularly. Take sort of good healthy snacks in with you and make sure your environment is comfortable. So good temperature, good posture, enough light, for example. Another helpful technique is to get some allies, a partner, parent, or friend who can keep you accountable to yourself. Get them to remind you to start your studies and agree to leave you in peace for the duration of them. These are the people that can talk you round if you aren't feeling it on the day. Remember, you know the results will be worth this short-term pain. Allies can be your conscience. You know it's the right thing to do. They can remind you of this when you're having self-doubt. Also, don't forget your learning style. Remember the 3 types: auditory learners, visual learners, and kinesthetic learners. If you're an auditory learner, consider reading out loud or recording yourself. That allows your ears to experience the information, which helps your acquisition of knowledge. You can also get auditory flashcards to have the flashcard experience, which is normally a visual learning medium. From an auditory point of view, I would suggest you just Google audio flashcards, and that will enable you to look into that if you're interested in that. If you're a visual learner, rereading manuals is helpful. Flashcards are great and they lend themselves well to memorizing case law or statutory sections. Another useful tip is in the Silex manuals, revise by reading through the summaries at the end of each chapter of the manuals. That allows the synapses to fire in recognition of the information, which in turn aids recall. Also, writing out the information and reducing it to short lists or bullet points can often help in compacting the information for your memory, and again feeding the synapses so that you can unpack it in the exam. Finally, if you are a kinesthetic learner, look for the practical examples. Understand the circumstances of the case law, not just the outcome. That helps contextualize it and learn from the examples in practice. Another great technique for kinesthetics is to try and teach it to someone else. Arrange some time with one of your allies to explain the examples to them. Use diagrams or props. These are great tools for kinesthetics to process and recall information. Okay, so you've worked out your learning style, got the support of your friends or family, and worked out your revision schedule. I know I went through these in the previous section, but they're at least as true for revision as they are for general study, so I make no apologies for restating these now. Remember, good educational psychology dictates you remember it better if it's repeated. What am I talking about? It's those quick fire tips of what to do and what to avoid, so let's have a quick look at those. Do plan ahead when you're going to revise. Give yourself goals or time limits, stick to the goals and time limits and finish when you reach it. Don't try to revise, keep going if you're too tired. Said before, human brain tends to be able to focus for 15 or 20 minutes. Have short breaks, change topics, mix it up a little bit, keep it fresh for your brain. Make sure that your environment is comfortable in terms of light, temperature, posture. Working for long periods, if you're uncomfortable, you're gonna lose focus, and that's not great for study or for revision. Pull an all-nighter, as I said, especially just before the exam. Your brain's like a muscle. It works better when it's well rested. So especially just before the exam, make sure you get a good night's sleep as far as you can. Do make notes, refer back to them, even if you just flick through them now and again. The notes you made through your study can be a great revision tool. If you look back through those, it really helps those synapses fire in recognition of that information. Said it before, don't be distracted by the use of technology going off, playing videos, all that sort of thing. Play some music by all means, nothing visual, nothing too distracting. And the final thing is that do reward yourself. If you've had a good revision session, just giving yourself that little bit of reward emphasizes the positive of what you've just done. It makes it a more positive experience and you're more likely to retain the information on the back of that. So I hope that was helpful. I hope that was of interest and gives you some thoughts on how you can adapt and improve your revision techniques before the exam. If you want any information or any further help or more sort of specific to your personal circumstances input from us, do by all means reach out. We're always happy to speak to anybody. The next session I'll put together will look at exam technique. Other than that, I look forward to seeing you in that session. Everybody stay safe. We'll see you in the next one.